right, so we were talking about, this is day 2 on landscape drafting 24-27. Today's the 20th. We're talking about, before class started actually, and now we're a little bit into class time, but we're talking about how to get to AutoCAD software in case anybody has that problem. I'll just review it real quick again. James Meek put the link in the chat box if you want a copy of that. I'm not sure if that takes you directly to the student version. I thought I put the student version link in there. Anyway, if you can't get to it that way, type in autodesk.com, scroll down towards the bottom. There's free software for students. That's where you want to go. And then that will take you to this page. And as I was saying earlier, you can download multiple software from Autodesk, multiple ones on there. Okay, so James Meeks just said that he has the link that you have there in the chat box takes you directly to this page here. So you just select it, and the one you want to download, then it will ask, and look, there's a bunch of them. I mean, there's some stuff I hadn't even seen. It's been a while since I've been here, I guess. Fabrication, man, they've come out with a bunch of stuff. AutoCAD LT for Mac, AutoCAD LT. Now, just to let you know, my brother, that's a landscape architect in California, he uses AutoCAD Lite, LT, Lite. That's what he uses for business. He hasn't bought the high-end stuff, the stuff that we're using, actually. Excuse me while I drink my tea here. James says, enough special interests, they will make one for your injury, or make one for the industry. Yeah, you're right, James, they will. If they see money in it, that's what drives it, right, James? Is the money behind it? Tinkercad, man, that looks kind of interesting. I don't know why. It just looks kind of interesting to me. I don't know if I mentioned you guys, but I'm getting into woodworking. Started about a month ago on a woodworking table bench. Well, it's more than a bench; it's a table. I took a 4x8 sheet of plywood, cut it in half, and I had to make the table so it was collapsible because I can't leave it up in the garage. So I came up with my own design. I'll show you a picture sometime or show you some sketches of it. It turned out okay as far as it works. I had to make a little cart for it because you can imagine 2 sheets of 4x4 plywood, 3/4 inch, and then with a frame of 2x4s on the bottom side, and then each 4x4 piece has legs that have locking brackets, chuck brackets on it. They lock, and all this hardware and stuff that I put on there. I originally had it designed as hinges, with hinges on the sheets, and then my design idea was that the hinges are in the middle of this 4 foot by 8 foot sheet, and then I would make this cart that I could slide underneath, and then I would collapse it and would fold into the cart, because you can imagine how heavy an 8 foot sheet of plywood would be connected. Well, my engineering, you know, I'm learning on it. I have to say I'm learning, because you have to. There wasn't anything like that online. They had folding tables, but nothing like what I wanted to do. I wanted a nice big table. Anyway, I don't know how I got on this story, but anyway, I've been using AutoCAD for designing some of this stuff, and my son, who's been in woodworking for about I guess 6 months, maybe closer to a year, designing some garden boxes. Actually, he's selling them, and he has asked me to do some stuff in CAD, not to sell the CAD drawings. If Autodesk is listening, I'm not selling anything, just so he can figure out some angles and some wood cuts and stuff like that. And he's found some additional software as well, that not Autodesk product, but can't remember the name of it. It's not like it. Tried SketchUp, and he didn't like that well, but some stuff to help facilitate that. I guess that leads back to James. Oh, he's put some more stuff in here, James. You seem very knowledgeable on this. Tinkercad is a baby CAD. Okay. Big AutoCAD. Big AutoCAD is always listening. James, you must have a lot of experience with something in industry. I don't mean about the AutoCAD listening, but are you, James? Um, are you in industry right now, James Meek?
Currently not, but my dad is a professional electrical engineer, so he deals with a lot of CAD people and just the industry in general.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for that and bringing some wealth of information to the table here. I know it probably doesn't apply a lot to landscape and electrical engineering portion, but anytime you have anything you want to chime in on, please do. I always welcome people with a lot of experience or have maybe touched or have relatives that are in fields that can bring knowledge to it.
Well,
Yeah, that'd be great.
actually, he talks about landscaping people now and then because he doesn't want to have to run a electrical wire up a tree or something if they have a certain tree, or it's a little complicated when you're running wires through things and underground. And
Yeah, I know. And some of the stuff you don't want to do yourself, you want an electrical engineer to figure it out. Believe me, I've seen some weird stuff when we were surveying. We would dig up. We got to be careful where we're digging. Yeah, some people just had some crazy ideas. So I respect electrical engineers highly. All those professions I respect highly, but electricians and electrical engineers, man, they. I used to live across when we lived in California. We're living in this house. It was a repo we bought, and they stripped the whole place. I mean, everything. And but across the street, this church I was going to, the guy across the street went to the same church, and he was a electrician by trade. And this guy was so helpful putting this house back together. A swimming pool that was when we bought it, it was as green as well my slide, wherever my slide went to, color green, and they messed up the pump and the electrical. They kind of Mickey Mouse the electrical. So this electrician was just a huge help in helping me get back together without charging me a lot. So electricians, electrical engineers are they earn their money, believe me. So. And James, thank you again for bringing that to the table. And anybody else has anything with professions or associated with any professions, I welcome the information. Um, you know, I don't know a lot. I know a little bit about a specific area, but when you start getting into, we're dealing with most people here are going into civil or going into architectural or going into landscape, whatever. Um, So I know very little about the machining side. I'm learning more. We have a full machine shop, and I'm in charge of the entire department, which includes machining, and also the instructors that are machine specialists. And I'm learning more and more as I go along on that. So um, it's I welcome all industry input that you might have. All right. So anyway, that's Autodesk. There you go, and we'll get back on track here. And I hope everybody's doing well. Day number 2, as I said, and I'll try to navigate back as I'm talking here. Let's go back to yesterday for a second. I need to stop sharing that first. And let me go back to yesterday. Did not show up. Okay, yesterday as far as thought. Show of hands, or put in the chat box. When are or how do you turn in assignments? How do you turn in assignments? Either raise your hand or put it in the chat box. How do you turn in assignments each week? Nobody? Kevin, by email. Yes, email. Okay. Very good. Yes, email through Blackboard, absolutely. Larry, you're going to say something?
I'll just email through Blackboard. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So when you have 5 or 4 assignments, I think we have 4 assignments for this week. When are they due? You don't have to give me the exact day, but what day of the week are they due? By Monday, James. All right. Good. And do you turn it in separately by Monday or all in one packet? All right, one packet, all in one. Yes, Jesse, thank you. James, thank you. All right. All right, so all one time. You don't send in one at a time. You turn it in all at once. And you should be able to, when you make a PDF, you should be able to attach it in order of the assignment page. So let me ask you this. How many have looked at the videos on how to make an assignment page, how to put an assignment page in email? Iman, thank you. One, yes. Yes, Kevin.
I was just answering your question.
Okay. What was my question? Oh, yes. So you should be able to attach all your assignments. It wasn't a question, I guess. It was just a. Thanks, Kevin. Threw you off there. So you should be able to attach. Oh, that's what it was. So Kevin said by raising your hand. I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm just like, I'm not going with it yet. So Kevin raised his hand and said that he had looked at the video on how to put an assignment page into email. So one person, anybody else look at that video? My hard-made video that lasts a boring 3 minutes, I think, or 4 minutes, whatever it was. Jesse, all right, so he looked at it too, I'm guessing. And James, when he watched it. And James, thanks for the picture. All right. Thank you guys for putting pictures in there. James Meek and James Gwynn, appreciate that. Oh, Zach, thank you. All right. This is really good. I should have asked the other classes because it's really boring looking at a circle with a head in it. So, yeah, I know. It really is. I know you guys probably get tired of staring at my face, but you can always just look the other way or something. But yes, thank you guys. I appreciate that. Anybody else? You know, you don't have to put a picture of yourself. It can be just something that, you know, of your character or your personality or something like that. I don't know. Iman says I don't know how to put one in, picture in. I don't either. Anybody have a short description on how to put a picture in? It's under settings, I bet, right? Anybody? Might Google it. Edgar, thank you.
It's in settings. You click the gear, and there's right above audio and video settings.
Okay, perfect. All right. And you guys are great. And I should have done this a long time ago. You know, I just this is really boring on this end, not seeing people, and I wish we could all have the video cams going, but the bandwidth it would crash the system for sure, especially with a class this size. So thank you all, every one of you that have done that, and the ones that you haven't, no big deal. But I'm just trying to try to make it a little more personal here. Yeah, campuses don't want to pay for that kind of bandwidth. Yeah, that's well, and I think James Meek, I think too, it has something to do with the home bandwidth too, because I know I've seen, and I was going to ask somebody, I forgot who it was. If you're on here right now, because I can go back and see how people come in and out of the session. Not that I'm trying to track and go, oh, you left and all that, but I can see if people are having difficulties, like they get kicked off. I know my last class, there was 1 or 2 students that every it seemed like every 5 minutes or every 2 minutes they would get kicked off and they come back in. And I don't know if that was because they were on their phone, and some of you may be on the phone. I don't know. It depends where they're located. James says, yeah, it will lag home computers without strong bandwidth. Yeah. Especially if I have a bunch of things going here, I have to make sure I have not too much open and, like emails coming in and out and just using different stuff. I was in a meeting this morning, so I had to make sure that was shut down before I started the session. So there's a lot of things, a lot of variables. If you're having a lot of problems and you think it's on our end, not on your end, please contact the help desk. They'll be the ones that might be able to help you work through that. So by show of hands, is anybody in here getting kicked off on a like every 5 minutes or every 2 minute basis? Anybody having problems with connection in this class? All right, James, and thank you for saying that you're not you. Anybody else? Oh, Javier, yeah, getting kicked off, like you're logged on, you're watching this, and then all of a sudden you get disconnect or don't get any reception. You're having any of that kind of problem? Anybody having that kind of problem? Okay, yeah, a gaming laptop, yeah, that's high end. So that James Meek, that works really well. I shared with you yesterday about the gaming computer that I had. Not that I game. Oh, Iman couldn't join from the laptop. That's interesting. But Iman, you can join from your desktop, or are you on your phone?
From phone.
On your phone, okay. Wow, that's really interesting. So, James Meek, you seem to have a good handle on internet and technology. Would that be the provider? Because the laptop will have a different provider than the phone, right? I'm thinking. I don't know if you know anything about that, or anybody know anything about that that could maybe help them on out. I don't know if it's a home connection, the provider for AT&T or Iman or whoever you have. Like we have T-Mobile for our phones, but it does connect into our router. Oh, possible security settings. Okay, thanks, James. Iman, you might check that. And don't ask me, Iman, how to check that, because that could be huge things. James, you're on a gaming computer, good Wi-Fi included. All right. So it's hard to tell whether it's the system. Javier, thank you for the picture. All right, appreciate that. It could be the internet provider. It can be the computer, and as James said, it could be possibly security settings. A whole bunch of stuff, and so work through it. Try to investigate it. Try to Google it. There's a lot of good information out there, and there's a lot of not so good information too. So you have to really filter through it. Edgar, Blackboard has its own servers, so sometimes the connection to the server has packet loss, latency, which causes connection issues. Okay, so it's the stress on Blackboard. All right, so yeah, that could definitely be it. I don't know if you guys were having class and it was last 8 weeks. I don't know at what point, but access to WebAdvisor, Blackboard, all the login, it wasn't Blackboard, it wasn't WebAdvisor, it wasn't TCC, but the people they use, the company they use for access, that's the security part where you log on, went down, not just TC, but not TC, just TCC, but nationwide. It may have been even further. Our IT guy was looking into it. He said the outage was all across the nation. So you just never know, and we still don't know what the cause of that was. But so anyway, there we go. All right, so let's get into landscaping, guys. Thanks for the conversation. It really makes class a lot better, I think. James Meek, that used to be a very common back 5 to 10 years ago. Oh, what failure, James? Is that a failure system? Okay. And I'm thinking as everybody's gone online, there has to be huge amounts of stress on all kinds of systems, internet systems and providers. And, you have everybody from kindergarten online. I mean, it's incredible. And then everybody moving home. Who is it? Is it Microsoft, I think? Our son told us, I think it was Microsoft, he said, your entire company is now at home permanently. I think it was Microsoft. I don't know if anybody knows of that, but no more going to the office for them. Everything is going to be done online, virtual. So what amazes me again, I think I mentioned this yesterday, maybe I didn't, YouTube. How the heck does YouTube handle the incredible amount? And James says Microsoft and some other software companies. Yeah, I'm sure. Our son works for Encore, like I mentioned, and he may be permanently at home. He does auditing, or maybe he'll be going in like once a month or something. But and all the stuff he does is reports and analyzes all this stuff, so he can do it all from home. So companies are transitioning. They're seeing a savings. I don't know if Microsoft will sell their buildings or lease out some of the floors, which might be another area that's going to be hurting is the commercial building industry, leasing out and stuff if everybody's transitioning to at home or condensing down a lot of things. A business working from home isn't bad. Environmental, it's improved a lot of different areas and on the environment, people staying at home. I don't like online, but this thing of walking from the kitchen into my office in here is great. It's saving us on gas, wear and tear on the cars. Of course, it hurts some industries, but it picks up some industries too. So there's good and bad with this whole thing. And I really appreciate every single comment that you guys are putting through here. I really do. This makes the class a lot better. Don't stop. As I'm lecturing, if you have a comment, even if it's off track, that's fine. If all of a sudden something comes to mind, that's fine. No problem at all. One last question I need to put out to you. How many of you have heard of the term, and you can show of hands or put in the chat box, James McGuinn, true, just would like to have a lab if I can't understand. Sorry, hit the caps. Understand. James, something, if you can't understand, yes, we have a lab. I'm here for lab when we go into lab, James McGuinn. So yeah, during lab time, when I get done talking so much, we'll have lab time and I'll be here to answer any questions. So no problem on that. Thanks, Meek. I wouldn't be in TCC if COVID hadn't shut down. Yeah. So there's a benefit, James Meek. So provides a time that you can do this. So juggling family, work, responsibilities, absolutely. James, again, did I help you on that? On your statement? No. Okay. Thank you for your honesty. So you're saying just would like to have a lab if I can't understand. Oh, you mean a lab on campus? Is that what you are referring to? Had lab on campus, face to face? I want to talk to. So, okay. Well, I looked into that again. I've been looking into it. You're not the only one that would like to have that, but we're not allowed to have it. They're just very limited on the people that they are allowing on campus. I mean, all the way from our dean to our chair. I think the deans rotate every other week or something like that being on campus. They are just limiting. They don't want people on campus. Now, we have a machining classes, and they're even limited to have only 2 days on campus and 2 days. a lecture online. So all that's limited. So as of right now, no, we can't have a face-to-face, but I can meet with you either one-on-one or during lab time. You can send me if you're having problems and we can't work through it, you can send me your drawings. I can look at them. We can do all kinds of things to facilitate that. So if you get stuck and you need someone to run it by, you have some options, James. Well, let me back up. So James McGuinn, did you have you had to have 1305 and 1409, right? Basic AutoCAD and technical drafting classes. Okay, so what do you feel like you might get stuck on? I mean, because you know the fundamentals of AutoCAD, and we're not going to go into 3D or anything in AutoCAD. I'll just take a second here to just to see what you might be. Somebody else might have that same question, James. What areas do you feel like you might get stuck in? Later on assignments. Okay, so I will review, I put a video on assignments. I'll review them in class again. And like I said, during lab time, I'm here for that. Now, I know, James, I think I know where you're going is like, okay, so what if you're working on them at 2 o'clock in the morning and you get stuck? Well, that is a problem. But there was nobody available on campus at 2 in the morning or whenever you're working on it. So what you're going to have to do is Google it. You're going to have to, if you get stuck on a CAD function, you're going to have to Google it. If you're stuck on an assignment problem, there's all kinds of videos that I've made. The recording for lecture should help you some. There's a lot of resources that you can go to. And if you're still stuck, then the next day you can ask specific questions, and that will help a lot of other people too. So hopefully, James, again, we can help you get through this. So don't worry about it. I'm here to help you in any way I can. We're just not here 24/7, but hopefully that will be as much help as we can give you. All right, and oh yeah, James. Okay, so James, again, you'd like to show someone where you're at on assignment? Send them to me. Absolutely, send them to me before by Thursday the latest. If you do an assignment, you're not sure how it's looking, absolutely send it to me. I'll review it, no problem at all. Yeah, and with the questions, absolutely, I'll review anybody. You know, the only thing where it gets into a tight jam is when we have the final project and we start moving towards the end of the semester, and all of a sudden you want me to review five or six sheets. That makes it really tough. But if you send in as you're working on things, you know, end of the day, you think, well, I'm done with this. I'm going to see how it looks, and it's 7 o'clock at night or whatever. Send it, email it off. Say, hey, here's my question on it. How does it look? I'll open it up, take a look at it. Send it by PDF and DWG in case I can't figure out the PDF what the question is. I can go into the DWG. Send it both ways. That will make sure I can answer the questions, because in the DWG I can check the settings and see if there's any problems there. So so absolutely, James McGlynn, send it to me. Anybody can send it to for review. James Meek, share screen sharing or screenshots or send the drawings. Yeah, absolutely. Iman, do we have discussion board on Blackboard? No, we don't have discussion board. So you can use this chat for discussion on that. And it runs the full length of the class. If you, or you can email other students. I showed you how to email. I touched on how to email students separately or as an entire group. You can use that for a discussion board as well. So, so hopefully that helps a little bit. You know what? I'm just going to check something. You guys mentioned that. Let me check something real quick. Okay, it's not set up. Okay, all right. So hopefully, Iman, hopefully that helps. James, again, hopefully that helps you. James Meek, I'm open for questions about stuff. May not be an expert, but two heads are better than one. So yes, definitely collaborate. I have no problem with you guys working together as long as you're not sharing files, bouncing ideas. Look, you can even look at each other's drawings as long as you're not using somebody else's file. The other thing is, in discussion, you don't have to address me if you want to. Like we were talking about the internet, and people were coming back about the good input and the feedback. It doesn't have to be to me. It can be just amongst yourselves, and that's where email comes in. So just look at it as an open class. After a lecture, I get done talking, which I've been talking for half an hour. I'm not worn out now, thanks to you guys. No, I appreciate this conversation. I really do. So talk amongst yourselves during lab time. I had that happen in one of the classes, the afternoon class last semester. They were really good about talking to amongst yourselves. They had questions, and I just let it go. If one person would say, "Hey, Bill, what about this? Where did you get this at?" And they go back and forth a few times, and I just let it run unless they got stuck on something that I would intervene on that. So hopefully that will help everybody. I will review stuff. When is lab time and how do we participate? Lab time is right after lecture, and it will run till 3:15 whenever I get done talking. Now, the first few days, on how do you participate, James? You just stay connected in Blackboard Collaborate, and we're in it. We'll be in lab. So the lab time is part of the class time. So the class is listed as lecture and lab. So basically, it's supposed to be about an hour and 15 minutes of lecture, and then about an hour, the rest of the time is lab. Initially, I'm going to have a lot longer lecture time than I will lab, but the lectures are going to get less and less, and you get more and more lab time. So James says, okay. James Meek, multiple video chat options, willing to collaborate on that too. Absolutely. If you guys want to use something else, if you want to use Zoom or some of the other features out there to talk back and forth, meet, it's like, you would be meeting in a separate classroom or a room or at the library or something on campus if you wanted to meet and want to have discussion. The positive is you each will have CAD in front of you, so you can share ideas and things. So, and like I said, the lectures will get less in length, and the lab times will get longer and longer. So hopefully I answered everybody or gave everybody enough information and enough support, make you feel like you have enough support that I'm here for you in any way. The only thing we don't have is face-to-face, and the only thing we don't have is on-campus open CAD labs, and which they were pretty popular at times, especially when we got down towards the end of the semester. So hopefully we will work through all that. So thank you all for the comments. It's 1:08, so I'm gonna see how many we have. 13 slides to get through. So I'm gonna go ahead and start pushing on that. If I go past if I hit 1:45, somebody put in the chat box, hey, we need a break, okay? Because I'll need one too if I take that long. Hopefully I only take about 30 minutes to go through these slides. So what we're going to talk about in landscaping today, finally getting to the lecture portion, and I love the conversation. Don't get me wrong, love the conversation. Love you guys putting pictures in there. You guys are great. This is turning into a great class, and it's only day 2, so I can just see all the positives just running forward. We're going to talk just about some terminology today in landscape drafting. Kind of get you familiar with some terms and talk about the assignment at the end of the lecture. Now this first photo here obviously is not Texas. Well, it might be East Texas. I don't know. Look at these yucca plants over here, because those are typically in high desert areas. The greenery, the water, the one, it has a tendency to think that it's somewhere else. San Antonio, possibly. James Meek says, yeah, could be. So there's a lot of possibilities, but my dad, and when I say this, I preface it, he's not rich. Okay, my mom was from Germany, so they met in the war, married her, et cetera, et cetera. Well, she died about 5-6 years ago now, and then my dad, and okay, so my dad they would go back to Germany every, maybe a couple years, 3 years, and visit the relatives over there. And my dad's a historian, so he would sightsee around Europe, and he'd love going places, and Russia, and just all kinds of places. Well, when my mom died, then my dad remarried. Met somebody online. Come on, Dad. Anyway, it was a Christian website, but so anyway, he went with that. Anyway, he marries this lady from England, not from Germany, but from England. So he spends about 6 months in. He used to live in Florida, and when his brother died, they moved to California with my other brothers. My dad's brother died. Clarify that. So he lives about 6 months in California and about 6 months in England, and he sends pictures, or we'll do FaceTime over there, and he's showing the landscaping over there. And then my wife watches this show, Escape to the Country. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but it's about people looking for houses in the countryside within England. Incredible. I mean, it looks like this, if not better, year round, just about. So it's really hard to tell exactly where this is at, but the right climate, the right irrigation, the right shade, the right sun, the right soil. There's a lot of variables to go in to get something looking this good. So that's just a preference as we get into the landscaping. All right. So some of the things that we're going to hit on, some of the topics that we're going to try to hit on all these topics through the semester. Landscaping in general, we talked a little bit about that yesterday on the syllabus. Landscape design, we're going to touch into the design a little bit. We're not going to get heavily into it, but we have to get into it a little bit. Landscape architecture, what that involves. Landscape plans, that's where we're going to plant. Excuse me, I didn't mean to use that word. That's where we're going to land as a foundation on the plans portion that we'll have to incorporate site plans, site analysis, plant materials, site amenities, all these things here, irrigation, codes and standards, cost estimates, and project specifications. I think I missed one or two in there, but anyway, I don't want to read every single PowerPoint. I know you guys can read and can review this, but these are the areas that we're going to hit on over the next 7.5 weeks. All right, so landscaping refers to an activity that modifies. So we're changing something. As soon as you see that word modify, you're changing something that's existing into something that is different. A viable feature of an area of land. So basically dealing with the land, this guy's hand is on the land. This guy laying the pavers here is on the land. But it encompasses more than that. All the things with landscaping, yeah, they have a foundational principle of the land, but it gets more into, it's more evolved than just plants. And I don't want to say just plants because that takes up the majority of it, but you're going to get into some different areas within landscaping that we're going to touch on today, some terminology. So it includes living elements. All your plants are the living elements. And it's also, you'll hear the term, and this is one term that I had a hard time getting used to. In fact, I didn't really click in my head the term gardening until my wife really started watching these shows probably a couple years ago now on Escape to the Country. And they say, well, look at this garden. But when somebody used to say to me, look at this garden, I was looking for vegetables and fruit trees and things like that. That to me was a garden. Well, garden is referred to as you may already know this, is basically, if you look at the garden out back of your backyard, you have the grass, you have the trees. You may have an actual vegetable garden or a fruit tree garden, or something like that, but the entire encompassing is garden. Commonly called, and it says commonly, I guess I'm not too common, commonly garden, the art of craft or growing plants with the goal of creating beautiful landscape with beauty within the landscape. All right, so there's just a little definition for you on that. Landscape architecture is a work of making specific kinds of places outdoors. So it's not just, putting down some plants and calling it good, or putting down some structures and calling it good. It's a specific kind of area for a specific application, and it covers a wide variety of architecture. Landscape architecture covers a wide variety of different areas within this. If you look at these, look at the top right over here. I guess I could get my pencil going here. If you look at the top right, this encompasses a lot of different disciplines within this. And within this, we have structural, we have the concrete work. Of course, we have this roller coaster back here. I think they've kind of modified this to be around this roller coaster. Look at the structures here. Look at the finishes around the trees. All these things, and there's probably some electrical that's involved in this as well. Kind of going back to James Meek on your comment on that. Larry says a rabbit. Not sure on that one, Larry. But I'll go with it. James Quinn. You don't see the pencil moving, only the lines you draw. Okay, the lines are what's important. So I'll make sure I use the pencil because that's where I'm pointing at. But you can't see my pointer. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. And James, the other James, concurs on that. All right, so I'll make sure that I use the pencil if you can't see my cursor on here. All right. Thank you for the comments. And I do need that. And once in a while, maybe the sound will go out too. So I'm here and my lips are going. Probably the sound went out, right? Okay. Never know. Sometimes it gets delayed. You've seen those movies too. All right. All right. Even the whole city, square or town square, back, it can be anywhere, and it's incorporating in natural areas that may have frogs, turtles, fishes, birds. Environmental studies are done. How can you put a park in like this and not maybe damage something else? Maybe it's going to cause some problems, right? And we've had this around in our area for years. We have a lot of green belts, a lot of areas that they put concrete trails through, but they have a lot of wooded areas surrounding these trails. Or we have a place up here that has a dog park, and it has a gym, indoor swimming pool, outdoor swimming pool. This whole facility. Behind it, they probably have probably 10 acres somewhere in there of just wildland, and they use it for mountain biking and hiking and walking. Well, you get some conflict. We have a lot of coyotes now that are being pushed out of these areas because of developments like something like this here, or look at this top one up here, top left up here. The developments putting in. This was raw land at one time. We've lived here long enough that we've seen areas that are that have these beautiful longhorns, and all of a sudden now they're developing homes and stuff there, and we really miss seeing those, but that's part of advancement. James Meek, urban coyotes became a thing because of urbanization, absolutely. And what's happening too on the coyotes, they're getting a less of a food source because we're putting more concrete and houses, etc. They're getting confined into a space, and they're territorial, And so there are a few mornings when I was traveling to TCC, I'd leave early in the morning and go down the street on trash day, and there's a coyote staring at me. You know, they got into the trash. We're well within the development. We're not like right on the outskirts. I mean, they had to walk through development. We've had problems with coyotes chasing joggers. You know, the joggers running away, which you're not supposed to. So they've spotted bobcats. We have a possum, and we love possums. Possums are good. Kill possums. We have a possum living on our area here in our lot. We're just on a small little postage stamp lot type thing. So there's, you know, a lot of things to be said for development, but there's a lot of considerations that have to take place. Yeah, the coyotes, James was saying, eats the people's pets. Yeah, that, you know, a cat's disappeared. Sorry to hear the cat disappeared, but more of a dog person. But anyway, yeah, you can't leave your cats out. Now, to kind of tag along on that, living in California, that house I was telling you about, that foreclosure house that we bought, we had a cat. That's what got the cat, not the coyotes. And we lived, wasn't a lot of wooded area. There was a park area that was a few streets over, had a lake around it and stuff, but owl got our cat. Yeah, swooped down and picked that sucker up. Of course, then the herrings came in too and got my goldfish that I had in the pond back there. All kinds of problems. Several mountain lions roam throughout DFW. I don't know if you guys saw that last one. I don't think it was DFW, but there was a YouTube posting of 6 minutes of this mom, mountain lion or bobcat, mountain lion, was going after, he didn't go after him, but he was giving the hiker a big warning to stay away from her cubs because her cubs were too close to this hiker. And it's on YouTube. Carry your 9mm. Yeah. But that mountain lion was really aggressive. I mean, not to a point. It charged a couple times, but not to the point where it, attacked the jogger. So yeah, it's a real concern, but it has to be consideration with landscaping as well. What are we doing? How are we affecting the environment around that when we put things in? Other kinds may look at completely wild, and this is other kinds of landscaping, completely wild meadow or mountainside. So landscaping can be just, kept as natural as possible within an area that's still landscaping. Over here on this side as well. So I still got some more comments coming in, which is great. I love this. James Meekus, going back to the bobcats. Territorials that stretch hundreds of miles, yeah, typically, and they travel through the drainage canals and green belts. Absolutely. I don't know how big the coyotes area is as well, but I know they're territorial as well. But we've seen all sizes around here. So yeah, that's huge. I used to do a lot of backpacking in the Sierras, and we're supposed to go backpacking alone, but I couldn't get people that wanted to, do a little bit of work and hike, a couple of days back into the backcountry, and which is the easiest, but I had my few encounters. Had one encounter with a bear there, so yeah, you're going to get that. All kinds of things. Iman, who designs landscape, a planner or a architect, landscape architect? Who designs? Okay, so the first couple words, Iman, great question. Who designs? So, if you have a project and you want it done, I'm going to use this word professionally, all right? You would hire a landscape architect. Now, the landscape architect may do his own drafting, or he may have a person that actually takes his notes and does some of the design work in collaboration with the landscape architect, depending on the size of the office and et cetera, how they set it up. Also, there's a landscape architect may take notes, hand it off to the drafter. He doesn't do any design work. He just does what the architect, landscape architect, has told him to draw up. A couple scenarios on that. Another scenario, you can be, I could do that, if I wanted to. I could open up a business. I don't have to be a licensed landscape architect. I should know something about plants, right? And I know a little bit about plants. I know a little bit about soil. I'm learning more every day. But I could open up a business being a landscape designer, not a landscape architect, but I could be a landscape designer. I don't have a license as an architect. Probably all I would have is a city license to have a business. It doesn't mean a lot, but my brother started off before he graduated as a designer, working for companies, and they called him the designer. He actually did design work. So Iman, you don't have to be a landscape architect to do design work, but when it gets into structural and some of the codes and things, some cities require certain things to be done, have to be done by a landscape architect that has the stamp. But you can be in business as a landscape designer. Iman, does that answer the question on that? All right, great. So let me back up here. There's some more questions coming in. And you did say, Iman, back to yours, you did say a planner or architect. Yeah. So a planner, there's a degree called environmental planning. You can get environmental design. There's you can get into, which also gets into the landscape portion of that. James, let's see, we talked about the coyotes. He also says architects would make the initial plans, and a drafter would possibly take them from the notes from there. Yeah, exactly what I was saying. Right, James? Exactly right. So depending how the office is set up, but you can go out on your own as a designer. You can do that. James also says designers are specialized drafters from what I know. Yes, they have a lot more knowledge than a drafter in the field. Excellent statement, James. So in basic AutoCAD, I teach exactly what James Meek just said. So you have a drafter, and this is when we're talking about careers and we're talking about money. We have a drafter, we have a designer, and then we have a licensed architect. So those three levels, and they all perform either different functions or they incorporate together the same function. So a drafter, if he has enough knowledge, he could break out on his own and do some design work. But basically, a drafter is usually entry level. One of the survey companies I worked for out here, there was a gentleman, he had been doing drafting for like, I don't know, 20 years or something. But he was no longer a drafter. He didn't have an AA degree. He didn't have a 4-year degree. He didn't have a master's. I don't know how much schooling he did have. He had years of experience as a drafter. He was called a designer. So we had people in the office that were either in college or had just graduated college that were drafters. So they took information from the designer or from the land survey, licensed land surveyor, and took directions from him as a drafter and did the work. The designer would actually do some calculations. He would take a job in, and maybe the licensed surveyor that ran the office, he wouldn't even see the job. If you go right to the designer would start laying out the curves and doing the calculations for the delta and the radius and all the mathematical calculations to put in the slopes and all that. And then the licensed landscape surveyor would have to review it because his stamp would have to eventually go on that. Be sent out to the city for review. So, and then all the modifications and everything on. So, back to James Meek. Yeah, exactly right. You have the designer, or the drafter, designer, and then the licensed person. James says also designers specialize in drafting. What I know, they have a lot. Yes. Okay. So I answered all of that. Yeah, exactly. Knowledge Knowledge, not education necessarily, but knowledge can take you up into as a designer. Right, some good points. Thank you all for the questions and comments. I appreciate that. So back to this. So landscape designing can include in just mountainous areas. It doesn't have to mean that you're clearing the land 100%. It can be incorporated in different areas. Just like one of the parks we have back here, they incorporate different areas. They leave it as natural as possible, but they'll put trails, non-concrete trails, but walking trails through there. They'll have like the Boy Scouts or something going through trailblazing and clearing brush. When I back in the Sierras, they had volunteers that worked with the State Department. These were usually state parks or national, that they would take volunteers and they would go out 5 or 7 days just clearing trails and maintaining trails. Trails that were starting to get washed away from the rains. They would actually use natural boulders. They would use natural materials in the surrounding areas, such as boulders or logs, to reinforce the trail so it wouldn't be washed away. A few times I'd be backpacking, come to an area that looked like it was an encampment, but you couldn't find where the trail took off from. You know, you come into like a dirt area that looked like they had a little fire ring there, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, I know I don't want to go back on the trail I was just on because I'm going the other way, but you couldn't find out where it headed out of. So they would do things like that. But that's a type of landscaping. They're preserving the area. They're making a change to it by doing maintenance on it. So it's just another different type of landscaping as well. Landscape architect is the work of picking specific kinds of places outdoors. Landscape architects are designers of environments. Okay, so environments is a huge word to really consider. What is around you? You know, you have an office environment. You have a yard environment, you have a car environment when you get into that. So really be considering if you're thinking about landscaping or becoming a landscape architect, you're going to be dealing with different environments, you know, mountainous, desert. You're in Texas, you know, how many different areas do we have that we deal with? California, the same way. You have the beach areas as one environment, and you have the high desert areas. That are more inland, and you have the desert areas. So you have, you know, Palm Springs, these areas, different type of environments are different challenges. Within that, we have social worlds that we have to consider, the wilderness we have to consider, water and air, how are we affecting that? Are we bringing a lot of people into this design that we're doing that's going to impact? A few years, it's not a few years ago, this is many years ago, they would limit how many people could be on this one of these trails that I used to hike up in the Sierras. They would only allow so many people at one time on there because of the environmental impact. So all these things have to be taken into consideration as a landscape architect or a designer. Here it is, landscape architect's a person who designs the outdoor environments. And they try for harmonizing. It's always a good thing, and that's one of the beauties of landscape architects. They try to harmonize within the surrounding areas, whether they have to deal with roads, existing roads, or existing buildings. Landscape architecture is a design of outdoor spaces, of landmarks and structures. And how does it look aesthetically? You know, yeah, it's great. We can put up a wall, we can put up some grass, we can put up some shrubs and stuff. But aesthetically, how is it appealing? What does it do? Let's take a look at my pencil going here. Let's take a look at this top left here for a second. Look at this line work. Look at the directions that goes. All right, even these lines here on a crossing pathway. Look at the lines here, how they cross in this photo in the bottom left. But look how your eye is drawn back here. This walkway, we know it doesn't get thinner. This is a perspective drawing or perspective photo. It stays the same, but it draws your eye in. These lines, whether you realize it or not, are drawing your eye back into this area. So it doesn't just stop here. There's not an abrupt wall. But these subtle lines will draw you back in. Let's look at the top right up here. This curved pathway suggests something. It suggests that there's something back there, and it should spur curiosity. You can't see what's back there, but the pathway declares that there's something back there that you might want to take a look at. So it declares some kind of curiosity. James says, well, art appreciation finally just became useful. James, love that statement. I know how you feel. I took, other James was laughing. Yeah. I had to take art appreciation when I was going for my second associate's degree, also fulfilling the university requirements, but I took it at TCC, and I took it over a 10-day period, wintermester. I think we were in class from 8 a.m. to like 2 p.m. Try that out, lecturing. And it was every day except they buffered the holidays. So you'd have like 4 days straight, and then you had Christmas kicked in. You have a couple days for Christmas, and then you go back a couple days and you had New Year's, and then you finish up. It was incredible pace. A lot of time. We still spent the required time in there, but fortunately we had a great instructor. She was older lady. I don't know if she was as old as I am at the time, but I would guess she was maybe in her 70s, hippie type, kind of from my generation, the tie-dye and the funky hats, and just knowledgeable, and some great exercises, and just a real joy. But back to James Meek's view on that. Yeah, finally you're going like, now I understand what art appreciation is all about. Yeah, so you get texture. Yeah, so James, you have texture, you have color, you have line work, you have all that, which is art. Exactly right, it is art. So we look at this top left one, Larry. We need to have a field trip to the Japanese garden. Yeah, I've been down there, Larry. That's a great place. I don't know how it's looking now. Number one, just coming out of summer. Number two, they had a lot of pesticide problems with the roses. That Rosetta was hitting that hard, and I don't know if that affected anything down there. But yeah, that's a great place if you guys get a chance. And I don't want to make you guys sad, but when I taught this landscape class, 3 years ago maybe, I had a group of high school students in with it. Or was it all high school? I don't remember. But we have the early college, high school students taking classes, and I think it might have been all high schoolers. I taught them in a 1409 class, basically AutoCAD class, and that same group I was going to have the next semester, next 8 weeks in my landscape class. And so we were cleaning up one day in the 1409 class, and a few of them around, and I said, "Oh, I got you guys next 8 weeks in landscaping." And they're like, I said, "Oh, I feel bad for you," and they're like, "No, we love landscape. We want to learn about landscaping." They were all excited. It was about 4 or 5 of them out of about 15. They were all excited, and they said, one of them said, "Hey, do we get to actually dig the dirt and put some plants in?" These are high school kids. I'm like, "You guys want to do that?" And every one of them said, all 5 of them, representing the whole 15, because they're a pretty tight group. Said, "Yeah, we'd love to." And it's like, oh my gosh, what an opportunity. I got a hold of the maintenance department, and I put this whole thing together that we were going to landscape this certain area. I was getting some funding for it. One person I didn't clear right away was with the dean of the department. So it didn't clear the dean, or I guess it went up to clear the dean, but it didn't get a clearance from the VP because of legal things and tools and all that. But they were excited actually to do this install, kind of back to Larry's point, not necessarily doing install, but I would take my landscape classes around campus and point out different things that we're seeing here on photos, different type of plants and the texture. And you have more of a feel for it, because that's what landscaping is all about. It to me is being out there and experiencing the different smells and the textures and looking at things. To me, it's an exciting world out there. Yeah, out here you have to wear bug repellent, but oh well. Oh, and I should send you guys a video. Our son was on a hike. He lives over in Garland, and they have some hiking trails, natural wooded areas. He sent a video of a 5-foot snake crawling up this tree. He said he came in an encounter with it about 12 inches away. It was hanging from this tree. And yeah, I mean, it was impressive size, but it ended up being a rat snake. So that wasn't too bad. But being out in the environment, don't you gotta love that? I mean, wolf spiders and scorpions and all kinds of cool stuff. So be careful where you dig. All right, sorry, I got off on tangent here, and I got 5 minutes, and we have only halfway. All right, Larry says, kill the lawyers. Bill Shakespeare. I'm not sure what that. Oh, on trying to get a project approved. I know. I know that was really, really a sad moment for me because they were all excited. Some of them weren't too excited. Some of them in the class weren't even excited to take a little field trip, a little walk around there. It was some nice weather too. So anyway, that's some of the younger kids. I know you guys be out there and ready to dig. All right, landscape plan. So here's another term. Landscape plan is a readable map. Excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice. I get too excited talking in here. Readable map of a residential commercial diagram depicting the plot of land. So you're going to actually show the perimeters of the land. So that would be the scope of your work. It's going to show topography. Skipping down here, topography, exterior features that are existing, structures. You have the residence, the structures existing. Maybe this patio area was already existing, so you're going to show that on your initial reconnaissance of the site. You'll show fencing, utility poles, power lines, driveways, easements, etc. And this will be incorporated in the final plan, the initial plan, and the final plan. So the initial reconnaissance or the sketch or the preliminary, you'll show everything existing, and then the final plan will incorporate, if you're taking something out, then you'll note that, and then you'll replace it and make all these notations. But we'll get more into these notations as we move through this. Okay, so here's one of your first terms, the softscape. Softscape refers to the live horticulture elements of the landscape. Softscaping can include flowers, plants, shrubs, trees, flower beds, and duties like weed management, gardening, planting, mowing, anything like that you're dealing with the softscape. All right. Just remember the softscape, the organic materials that are out there. All right. We have the grasses and the shrubs, and the mulch is included in that as well. All right. In this photo up here, you see a lot of softscape. A lot of softscape. If you look in the background, and we'll get into this in a second, you see something that's different than the softscape. All right. Let's move on and see what we. And that takes us to the next slide of hardscape. The hardscape includes that everything that is not the softscape. So you have the gravel, you have the rock area here in this bottom left photo. The top photo up here, you have this retaining wall, the patio, including is this fireplace back here. And just a little side note, we'll get into later, an amenity, not an amendment to the soil, but an amenity to the landscape is furniture or a pot here. That's an amenity. Hardscape is everything that's not the softscape. That's not an amenity. All right. So here we have down at the bottom of the slide, we have hardware and materials such as wood, stone, concrete, etc. All right. I'm going to stop there. Take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 1:30. 1:55. Just going to put this in there. Get it right yet? I'm trying. 1:55 p.m. And we'll take a break here. While we're taking a break, please write down any questions from the previous slides or anything else that you may have, and put it in the chat box. I'll answer those when we get back, and then we'll move through the last. We only have like 3 more, or only 1 more slide after this. This one and 1 more. So we're just about done with this, but I want to take a little break, and then we'll go review again the assignment for today, and then we will go into lab time. All right, so I'll stop the recording now, and we'll be back for the second part of the lecture at 1:55. James, Larry, thank you. James, thank you for the okay and the thumbs up. I appreciate the great communication. Talk to you in a bit.